All right, we're coming back into session at 7:11. Perfect, 15 minutes. All right, I guess we'll move on to E, committee reports.
Thank you. Item E1 is Standing Committee, District Policies on September 30th, and that's Director Lineback and Reyes.
Don't mind me. Who would like to go first?
I was waiting for you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I checked
Yes,
out.
I will. Okay, so we had our policy committee meeting on Monday, September 30th, and we addressed discussion items included, as you would see in our agenda, the updating of the table of contents for the employee handbook, which is the personnel policies, and also reviewing the draft personnel policies. This has been, what, a year, going on a year, and staff has worked very hard, and their committee of staff is really been providing us with very good information here. It looks like, as we go down the line, it looks like we should hopefully be able to, early next year, be able to fulfill the completion of this personnel handbook, employee handbook, and bring it to the board. So I really wanted to commend staff for all the hard work. And it's been really a very good work session. We reviewed the draft policies. In that, we reviewed certain codes of conduct. We reviewed different items on benefits, et cetera, and also on, as we all know, the sexual harassment, the abusive conduct, and all this, which is really, it was really very good because staff is doing a great job being very clear about, the definition of words and actions. So I wanted to say that, and then I will pass it on to my co-director on the committee.
Yes, and if you sort of follow along on the agenda there, we did look at the request of staff, a budget and finance policy regarding procurement and signature authority limits, which is included in tonight's board package, so we can discuss it at that time. And then very briefly, next steps, both Director Reyes and I, at least, agreed that once the personnel policies are complete, we would like to move on to board policies, so policies that relate to this board of directors.
Yeah, and just to note that other policies, should policies in planning and development and finance come up that need to be dealt with, that they would come and be brought to the board as needed.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Everybody looks content, so we'll move on to, well, I don't have any public hearings, so we'll move on to G, the regular calendar, item G1.
Thank you. Item G1 is to approve the amended joint use agreement between the Cordova Recreation and Park District and the San Juan Unified School District. And I'll turn it over to Director of Parks and Recreation, Jill Nuns.
Thanks, Danielle. Good evening, Chair Yearwood, Board of Directors. In front of you this evening is a revised amendment to the joint use agreement between the San Juan Unified School District and obviously the Cordova Park and Recreation, or the Recreation and Park District. Basically, overall, this is for a joint use for the Gold River Park, which is our park, as well as the Gold River Discovery Center, which is located on the same grounds. So this is a joint use for both of our agencies to use those facilities and kind of swap every so often. They obviously use the field during the weekdays for their recess and some programs. And then we're trying to do some programming within the Discovery. We're trying to do some summer camps in there. In the past, we've done some adult yoga. So we'll continue to work with the school to get programming within the school to go ahead and offer the offerings out in that area, out in the Gold River area. So, but basically, there's no real significant changes to this agreement. It's revised. It's basically mostly legal language that we've kind of discussed and cleaned up. We've worked with the leadership for the past year to basically come up with this agreement. Their board is ready to sign it and approve it. Tonight, it's in front of you to be approved. We'll have quarterly meetings with the school district to talk about programming on both sides, and then we're also going to work with their maintenance staff to see if there's any additional maintenance that they can provide to us to continue to make sure that that facility, which is our facility, which the fields are on and the playgrounds are on, if there's any capabilities or abilities for them to offer some in-kind sort of maintenance on that field, because we only have so much money we can spend on it. They do use it a lot. So we're going to meet with them in the next month to discuss that as well, if you approve this joint use agreement tonight. But basically, that's it. So that concludes my report. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Director
I do.
Reyes.
Thank you. I was just looking at, first and foremost, I'm thrilled we have this joint use agreement, and I'm presuming that General Manager Larkin it's the same, pretty much the same format as we have with the other school districts. I know we wanted to get uniform. Nikki there?
It's similar, but this is a different one because they're just one school. And so it's a little bit less content heavy due to the volume of which we're having the agreement. But it's similar in terms of the process we took to get us both to an agreement that both the school, San Juan Unified School District Board will sign it, as well as we're recommending that the board sign it tonight as well. So it's very similar to Folsom Cordova, but it's modified based on the size of it.
Okay, so my question is, on page 62 is a map of, it's an Exhibit A map of the school park boundary in 1995, am I right?
In the old agreement?
Yes, in the old agreement, is this?
Oh, on the back
Page
page.
62, the
On the
old
back
agreement?
page?
Yeah,
I see that on the back page.
yeah.
We do have a little overlap between our park and the school. Basically, our park, Jim Morales had brought this up. Our park kind of, I guess, encroaches, or it's, I guess, part of what they use is it butts up. I mean, it definitely overlaps. The better way to say it overlaps. But we have a big park there that butts right up to their pavement.
So my question is, I didn't see any other map. So is this the map, is this pretty much the footprint that we are going to be working on with? Or are we going to be at least able to get, let me tell you why. At one point, I was assigned to have to sit down with the, school, Discovery School, and we had their school board member, Greg, I can't remember his first name or last name, if it's Greg. But anyway, the point was there was a little bit of a concern at that time. I would say probably about maybe 6 years ago or so. And the concern was they were concerned about the fact that they wanted to put a fence.
Yeah.
You know, that whole story. And as it was, there started to be which is our property, which is your property, and all this. And for a while there, they wanted to fence our whole park. They wanted us to fence the whole park. And so it was almost like, excuse me, but one, this is public, and two, you can't say that when you're using it, nobody else can come and use it. And so what happened there was it ended up ultimately them realizing that it was because they were saying, there were no accidents, it wasn't, I mean, that was not the cause, but it was because parents would drop their kids across and they would go running between the island and all this. And so that's why they kind of wanted to do this fencing and all that. And so what happened is we realized it's not the parks and it was not even the school, but it was the county. And so that's where they put the median, the fencing on the median to answer for that, okay, to prevent the running across. But I do remember when we were doing that there was a lot of where does the property line end and where does the property line begin? And if you take this part, and I can see here that obviously
We can
base-
include, we can revise it, and we can include an updated map.
I think that would really help, because it was really hard.
We can
If you can do that and just add an
So-
updated map.
As it relates to the fencing conversation, since I've been here also, had a discussion with their facility manager. When I first met with them, when we were bringing back this topic of updating the joint use agreement, they had requested exactly what you were saying, but they were providing a fence separating the school from the park on that side. And we were open to it because of what was going on in the country related to securing school sites, and that the benefit of having a park attached to a school is maybe not as much of a benefit. They were kind of struggling with the discussion about that. So that discussion has actually ceased. What they did is they ended up doing some internal fencing within the school to secure it and meet the codes that were required by San Juan Unified School District. And so that is off the table. They also were suggesting possibly fencing in the side of the street, and we had said, no, it is a public park and it needs to be accessible for the public, and it's not something that we would consider to be a part of their property. So we've already vetted all of those discussions out since I've been here, and it's really not on the table anymore. We've come to the conclusion that that would not be a benefit, not only for the school, but also for the community. So that's put to bed at this point.
So that's good.
Yes.
So, because I can see that a great big part here of the baseball field is our property, and they would lose that if they were to fence in just their
Correct,
property.
and we, like Jill was mentioning, we were having some heavy use at that particular park because of their recess and, activities. And so we have had some good conversations about, due to that heavy use from the school itself, that we are gonna look to have them, in essence, permit it during the time that they feel that they wanna use, which will indicate and track data for maintenance. So we've seen a little bit of a deterioration in that particular park because of the heavy use of it. And so we're working with them on a staffing level to help them support a standard that's higher than what it currently is by having their maintenance staff possibly support some of the fertilizer and supplies, and maybe even do some work additional to bring it to the standard that they expect in Gold River.
Yes, being a Gold River resident myself, I'd like to know these answers so that I can approach it. One of the other things was, I do remember, and I know you handled it very well, was there were some requests that at certain school hours that no public use the park area, the playing area. And I know that you had to say, no, they have to figure out their own what do you call this, chaperoning or putting up whatever personal boundaries, but that we could not tell the moms that are pushing their children to go into the play structures that they can't be there.
Correct.
Am I right?
It's a
And that's
public
covered.
park.
Okay.
And that's our part of the property that they have been using to complement what they're trying to do at the school with their gym programs as well as their recess. And we want them to use it, of course, and we want to be good partners. But it's to the point where it's at a cost that we are spending or needing to spend additional maintenance money because of their heavy use. So they're compensating us with that, knowing that that is a high percentage of that deterioration of the park is due to their use, not exclusively, because we also have some soccer groups that are out there that are unpermitted because it's a neighborhood park and we don't typically permit it out there. So we're working with the soccer groups and the school to see if we can make sure that we have more controls over who's using it, so that we can maintain it for the enjoyment of the community and the aesthetics are matching the rest of Gold River. It's, as you know, in Gold River, we try to maintain a very high standard across the district, but in particular in Gold River, it's very noticeable, that particular park, because it's a very centralized park on Coloma there, that people drive by it and will notice and have mentioned to us that they have noticed that the grass is browner or that it's patchy, and we're working with the school to remedy that. So
It's also my understanding that at one time, the residents of the neighborhood, the Gold River neighborhood, were working with the park to try and see if there could be a partnership to bring in more amenities to the park. Now, this is nothing, not the school district. This is the community. I know at one time they were saying if we were to match some money, can we have a track, which at that time was a need, but, I don't know if it is at this point. But I just wanted you to know that, and I've spoken with Mr. Doug Rothschild, yes, and I told him that those were some of the suggestions that were brought up, and also the fact that he faces them. And right now, PMRID monies have not been assigned to that part. So hopefully next year we'll get some of it. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, anybody care to make a motion?
I move the Board of Directors approve the amended joint use agreement between the Cordova Recreation Park District and the San Juan Unified School District.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Vice Chair Danzel, seconded by Secretary Sloan. Roll call vote.
Director Reyes?
Aye.
Director Lineback?
Aye.
Secretary Sloan? Vice Chair Danzel?
Aye.
And Chair Yearwood?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item G2.
Thank you. Item G2 is to adopt Resolution 19/20-25 and authorize the general manager to record the grant deed conveying title of real property of APN 072-296-065-000 located within the subdivision known as Somerset Ranch. And I'll turn it over to landscape architect Christina James. And we did provide a color map on this item for the board.
Thank you, Danielle. Good evening, Chair Yearwood and members of the board. Tonight, we're asking the board to adopt Resolution 19/2025 and authorize the general manager to record a grant deed conveying a small landscape parcel. It's actually only about 1/4 of an acre, just south of the Americanos landscape. And this is part of the Somerset Ranch development. So the Somerset Ranch development includes this triangular shaped parcel for dedication to CRPD. Both the PDA, the Park Development Agreement, and the conditions of approval memorialize the dedication of this parcel to CRPD. The developers provided us with a clean title and a grant deed for us to take ownership of the parcel. If you have any questions about it, I'm available to answer those. This parcel will be maintained by the district and the ongoing maintenance will be funded through Sunridge.
All right, any questions?
Just a quick question. Is it turf?
That's a great question. Actually, so we've been working with Park Services to minimize turf where it doesn't make sense and isn't practical. So on this particular triangular parcel, it's all native oaks and mulch.
That was going to be my question. All right. Anyone else, anything? All right. Anybody care to make a motion on this one?
I move that the Board of Directors adopt Resolution 19/20-25 and authorize the general manager to record the grant deed conveying title of real property of APN 072-296-065-0000 located within the subdivision known as Somerset Ranch.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Director Leinbach, seconded by Director Reyes. Roll call vote.
Director Reyes?
Aye.
Director Lineback?
Aye.
Secretary Sloan? Vice Chair Danzel?
Aye.
And Chair Yearwood?
Aye. All right, thank you. We'll move on to item G3.
Thank you. Item G3 is to authorize the general manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with the city of Rancho Cordova for community enhancement funds and park renovation fees in the amount of $3,400,000 for the Cordova Community Pool Replacement Project. And I'll turn it back over to Manager Taylor.
Good evening, Chair Yearwood and members of the board. This is a good day, I feel like. And before I get started on this, I want to acknowledge Megan Siren, who is in the audience here. She is a senior management analyst with the city of Rancho Cordova, and she's the staff member that I've been working with on this MOU to bring it to fruition here. She's also been a very active participant in our pool design team, attending design meetings on the pool, and she participated in our selection committee for the construction manager firm, and we'll be bringing that to you next month. So thank you, Megan, for all the help that you've given us. She's really been a vital partner in this whole project. Okay, so the district's original scope of work for the pool replacement project was for a $5 million one pool replacement that included a pool support building. In May of 2018, the Rancho Cordova City Council approved contributing $3.4 million to the Cordova Pool Project from their community enhancement program as well as their park renovation fees. This allowed us to expand the original scope to add 2 lanes to the lap pool and add a second recreation pool that would increase programming opportunities for young children and families. Let's see, the MOU that you have in your packet, it details the procedure for the transfer of that $3.4 million. And the method described is through a 37% reimbursement process. So the district will be reimbursed 37% by the city on invoices related to the pool project up to a total of $3.4 million. And I would also like to add that the city has agreed to pay 40% of the city permit cost for this project, which is an additional contribution of $56,060, which you also see that detailed in the MOU as well. Let's see, so the district and the city has formed a very successful partnership through the planning, the design, and also obtaining the permits for the project. We are almost there, and we anticipate bringing the request to release the pool project for bid at our November regular board meeting.
Yay.
Yeah. So the district supports the strategy to transfer the funding to the district via this reimbursement method. All the project budgeting has anticipated this to be a reimbursement strategy. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
Any questions?
Well, I don't have any questions, but I would like to acknowledge the long, hard slog to get where we are, with both cooperation with the city, the community involvement, and the staff just working endless hours. And this is just a much-needed project for the community, and I guess I just wanted to say hurrah out loud.
Yep.
All right. Well, anyone else? Any other questions or?
Like it.
All right.
I move the Board of Directors authorize the General Manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with the City of Rancho Cordova for community enhancement funds and park renovation fees in the amount of $3,400,000 for the Cordova Community Pool Replacement Project.
Motion by Vice
I'll
Chair
second that.
Danzel, seconded by Secretary Sloan. Roll call vote.
Director Reyes?
Yay.
Director Lineback?
Aye.
Secretary Sloan? Aye. Vice Chair Danzel?
Aye.
And Chair Yearwood?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
I was hoping for one large, big check, but I guess we'll do the 37%
No, you
reimbursement
won't.
method. All
You
right.
won't have to do that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Picture check.
All right, so we move on to item G4. I wonder who's presenting that one.
Yeah.
Item G4 is to adopt amendments to the procurement policy and signature authority limits. And I'll turn it over to Finance Manager Matt Goodell.
Thank you, Danielle. Good evening, Chair Yearwood and board members. All right, so tonight I'm presenting and requesting a proposed amendment to the financial policy regarding procurement and signature authority limits. This policy was last updated in September of 2012. At that time, staff identified the district purchasing agents list. We also established the approved thresholds of the spending limits of each type of agent. And then we acknowledged the requirements set forth by the California Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act, which I'm going to call CUPCA from now on. And that's the governing body for public works contracting. But since then, the district has experienced quite a few changes. One of those things was the organization chart. We've added positions. So we have the directors of Parks and Recreation, we have a construction inspector supervisor, we have a landscape architect, and we also have changes in title and name. So we went from district administrator to general manager. So there's some cleanup that has to do with the policy. We've also had an uptick in renovation projects due to the additional funding that we got from like My Parks, Measure J funding. And so we have a lot going on, including new growth development. It's just taken off, right? And so we also have CUPCA requirements have changed. Their threshold amounts have gone up. They've increased since our last time we doing the policy. And so we like to reflect that in our policy. And then finally, the district policies standing committee met and discussed this topic on September 30th of this year, 2019. And due to the heavy influx of projects, the need for efficiency in process and timing of those contracts, it was recommended that the signature authority limits be raised. And so that's what we're here to do. So those proposed changes that we're going to discuss in the existing policy, the first one was to the list of purchasing agents, and because of those organizational changes. To the left, we have our current policy of what we have, those four, and then to the right is what we're proposing. The one highlighted in yellow, designated staff and department heads, by the way, remain the same, but highlighted in yellow, we have title and name changes for the district administrator to general manager, and then board members to board of directors. Okay, simple changes there, but we also added a couple of levels of staffing as well. Key staff, and these are people that are involved in project management or major recreation events. For example, landscape architect, construction inspector, they need a level of authority to authorize contracts and invoices. And so we added that level. Department head stays the same, and then we also added key management. And so this is the director of Parks and Recreation and the park planning and development manager, and also the finance manager as part of that key management section. And of course, general manager and board of directors remain on that list. So these are all our purchasing agents levels. So let's talk about their signature authority limits. Our second big change to this policy. Designated staff on the top line item stays the same. That's our frontline staff, our coordinators that are purchasing agents for recreation and parks that are allowed up to $1,000 max with 0% in change orders. Okay, so they can't increase their agreed upon amounts for change orders. That stays the same. The new one that we just talked about, the key staff, we're proposing a $5,000 maximum spending level and a 2% increase up to a total of $2,000 in change orders of the approved contract amounts. This was vetted out with planning department as a reasonable and amount to use that are involved with our project staff that's out in the field. Department head stays the same, and then again, the next level with the directors and the management team is that we had a level to $60,000, and how we came up with that amount is it mirrors what CUPA has for their informal to formal bidding process. And so that's why $60,000 was chosen at that level to approve contracts and invoices at that amount. And then general manager at $100,000 spending authority with 100% in change orders. And again, that kind of follows CUPA. 100,000 is the maximum level, but if you do 100% change order, it gets to that 200,000, and that's the new level of CUPCA before going into the RFP formal bidding process. And so that's how that amount was approached. Anything beyond that is a board-driven item and would be approved by the board if it's over $100,000. So those are the changes for that, for the signature authority limits. The last piece that we're going to change in the policy is the CUPCA's new threshold amounts that I was talking about. And this is for public works contracts only. And there's 3 levels that they address. When contracting for projects that do not require price competition, that the project may be performed by a negotiated contract or a purchase order. And so our current policy says less than 30,000. CUPCA has increased their amounts to 60,000, so we're going to mirror that as per CUPCA to 60,000. So that's going to be that amount. The next level is when a contracting for projects that require an informal bidding procedure. And so staff must notify the contractors that express interest and are qualified and responded to our contractors' qualification list. And so that was between 60 and 200 is what it currently is, where before we had it listed at 30 to 175. And so we're going to, again, mirror that amount. And then finally, when the project is over 200,000, it's going to go to an RFP at that point. Before we had it at 175, CUPCA increased it to 200,000, so we're going to adjust that. Moving forward in the policy, I also put as per adjusted by CUPCA. So if CUPCA in the future increases that amount, we're going to automatically increase that amount without board action, okay? I'd like to also note that there's an amendment to my amendment in the package. It was brought to my attention that on page 83 in the board package, I listed the amounts correctly, the 60,000 and the 200,000, but I left the written portion the same. So it says written out in the sum of 30,000, right? And then it goes 60,000 in parentheses. And so it's meant to say 60,000. So I'm going to make that amendment when we get to the approval action part. And then also same thing with the 175 and the 200. It's supposed to be 60 and it's supposed to be 200 on the paragraphs A, B, and C. Okay? So to wrap this up, I'd like to note that the financial protections and being transparent will continue to still be in place. All purchase agreements must be within the board-approved budget amount for the year, right? All invoices are reviewed for approval and signatures by the CRPD Finance Department and my accounts payable staff. All checks are distributed by the County of Sacramento after the review, so it's another layer of protection. They review the invoices as well. A financial statement and capital improvement spending plan is distributed to the board every month. Okay, so we show the amount spent there on projects. And then quarterly, we do a claims report that shows the list of vendors that were paid and the amounts that were paid to them. And so we make sure that we, again, are transparent and have financial protections in place. So overall, staff is recommending that the approval of this policy amendment for approving contracts and invoices at specified signature authority limits takes place. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Goodell. Anyone have any questions?
No, we went through this at our personnel committee meeting, so
All right. All right.
policy,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, personnel
Well,
policy.
to us, it made sense that the CUPCA limits are, a standard for what we do, and it didn't make any sense to try and, given all the controls that you outlined very clearly, to not go with the standard.
All right. All right. Anyone care to make a motion or any more comments?
I'll move that the Board of Directors adopt the proposed amendments to the procurement policy and signature authority limits as recommended by staff.
All right. Motion by Director Reyes, seconded by Secretary Sloan. Roll call vote?
Director Reyes?
Aye.
Director Lineback?
Aye.
Secretary Sloan? Vice Chair Danzel?
Aye.
Chair Yearwood?
Aye.
No clap from the audience?
Oh. As
So
usual,
used to that
a
now.
wonderful PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, go have some cake. All right. All right, we'll move on to item G5.
Thank you. Item G5 is to approve the memorial tree planting and plaque honoring Deanna Moreno in Hagen Community Park. And I'll turn it back over to Manager Taylor.
Good evening. In September of 2019, Danielle Dunphy, a former resident of Rancho Cordova, contacted staff and submitted a volunteer application to plant a tree in memory of her past loved one, Deanna Moreno. Deanna Moreno and her children were active users of the Hagen Community Park. In an effort to celebrate the life and memory of Deanna Moreno and support the district as a place for building meaningful community ties, family requests a memorial tree planted at Hagan Community Park along with a 4-inch by 6-inch bronze plaque that reads Deanna Moreno Memorial. The location for the tree is shown in a map that's attached to your staff report. And that location was chosen by district staff with input from Danielle Dunphy. And it's near the large pavilion that is in Hagan Park. The donating party will pay $300 plus the price of the plaque. And so we're requesting that the board approve this memorial donation.
All right. Anyone have any questions? or
I'm just
comments?
curious how the plaque is affixed to a growing tree, or is it in the ground below the tree?
Good question. There will be a concrete base on the ground that the plaque is sunk into or attached to.
Oh. Okay, we're gonna take a brief second. There we go.
Yeah, it's coming, but
Look at the light, look at the light, look at the light.
for me, I don't mind memorials. My only problem with this is, as we've seen in this community, we plant trees and then for some reason that tree dies, construction project happens, something like that, and we end up removing it. We hear about it, school districts heard about it, and so I have no problem doing memorials. I just want something in here that the family knows that something could happen eventually 20 years down the, 6 months down the line, don't know. And, that we're gonna do what we can to protect that tree, but, Mother Nature's in charge of a tree, not us. So I just want them to know that we're not,
Well, so just so you know that in the past, when the board has approved memorial donations, one of the things that we do when we're working with those families and those requesters is there was a memorial donation policy that was passed several years ago. And it does talk about that, that sometimes there's things that happen in the future that none of us can predict. And in that case, we'll make every attempt to contact the family first and notify them, maybe find another location if we need to plant something else or put, move a bench or something like that. So we're very conscious of that. We want to make sure that we have a commitment to that family, that that there's some longevity in it.
In addition to that, we've also discussed when this came up as a topic, having trees be one of those things that we use as a tool to honor people. So we have benches and we have different ways of doing it. And so with that in mind, there's no guarantee that trees will survive or last. And so the last thing you want to do is to have something die and then have them feel like they need to replace it. So when we are revising that particular policy, that'll be a discussion that the staff has as to whether or not trees will be included as a part of the inventory as to what we'd offer.
All right, any other questions? All right, anybody care to make a motion?
I move the Board of Directors approve the memorial tree planting with plaque honoring Deanna Moreno in Hagan Community Park.
All right, motion by Director Limbach,
second.
second by Vice Chair Danzel. Roll call vote?
Director Reyes?
Aye.
Director Lineback?
Aye.
Secretary Sloan? Vice Chair Danzel? And Chair Yearwood?
Aye. All right, guess we're gonna move on to H, Board of Directors items.
Thank you. Item H1A is regarding training, the CSDA Annual Conference, September 25th to 28th. And that's Directors Danzel, Sloan, Lineback, and Reyes.
All right, can we start down at the end with you, Director
Yes,
Reyes? All right.
we missed you, Chair Yearwood. We missed you very much. We were very proud to be there and recognize our Staff of the Year. And remember, this is statewide, from a statewide group. So Laura, you're very deserving of it. I'm glad you got it. And we were there, right? So that was good. The other thing is, I wanted to say that it was a really good, I enjoyed the whole conference because it not only allowed me to get my certifications. I did produce a certification for my ethics training, and that's like a whole afternoon there. And also, together with the general manager, our sexual harassment. So I was able to complete mine. And I really did enjoy the company of our other directors there.
All right, Director Linebaugh?
Yes, I will echo the fact that I thought the conference was, enjoyable to attend and interesting. I also was able to attain my anti-sexual harassment training certificate. I think that should be more clear. I attended several sessions, of course, and if anyone has any questions, policies versus procedures, Brown Act updates, and recent trends in special district finances and employment.
All right, thank you. Secretary Sloan?
50th anniversary, that was pretty amazing. I was reflecting on our organization being around for 60 years.
60 plus.
So we got them beat. What did we do for those 10 years? Did we learn? We didn't have much learning going on. But there's a lot of learning to be done. We had a good time. There was a lot of people there. There were, it's not just parks people, it's cemetery and water districts and every other type of special districts. And so it can be a little bit overwhelming. They had some nice guest speakers that were enlightening.
Yes.
The nice bike guy, who I thought was excellent. I too went to the policies and procedures one. I thought that was interesting. I brought the thing back. I did my required ethics training. Here's my certificate.
Give it to Danielle.
There it is. And I attended another one, was partnerships, collaborations, and stretching your community dollars, which sort of ended up being more of a discussion on homelessness and how we're going to deal with that and how to partnership. And then the other one was dealing with difficult people. So I thought that was interesting because we always had that issues around the park districts and stuff like that. So all in all, I thought it was a nice event. It was nice that we had almost the whole board there. Sorry, Michael. Maybe next year.
In my defense, I was the only one currently employed at that time.
I'm employed again.
I know, I said at that time.
At that time. And now, one more.
All right. I would have
He's
loved to
giving
have
you a
been there,
dig there.
especially after learning what was gonna hope potentially transpire. But I wasn't able to. So, Vice Chair Danzel.
So I would have to say the best part of the conference was that Laura's award was the first thing everybody got. Yeah. I mean,
Yes,
we walked in, had breakfast, and okay, let's go to awards, and Laura was it. I mean, it was first thing on everybody's mind. So that was, and we were in the back of the room, and I think we were louder at our table than the rest of the room. I too. And you weren't even there. I too took my ethics training. I need to bring that to you and some receipts. I forgot my receipts. And I took a class that I thought was interesting because in this community we see a lot of drones flying constantly. Federal law states within 5 miles of an airport you can't fly a drone, and I went and I actually mapped it out. All of Rancho Cordova and the Park District is within 5 miles of an airport. So I find it quite interesting how we have lots of drones here and what some of the other agencies do and don't do. I mean, agencies talk about, oh, well, they expect us to go get them when they crash them in the trees or in the ponds or things like that. And how they deal with it. So it was quite interesting to listen to other agencies. I'm thinking, well, that's not going to happen in our community. They don't fly them here. But, some communities, I guess it's a really big problem now, especially around the holidays, Christmas time, things like that. Quite often, they're asked to do it, and most districts have gone, we're not getting it out of the tree because you're not, you're not supposed to be flying them in our parks. We have policies, things like that, so they find other ways to get them, I guess, or wait till the wind comes. They weren't real clear on how they actually got them, how they came out of the trees. Yes, ma'am.
So I have just a question. So it's recommendable that parks have policy?
It is, but
That,
our whole,
with regards to the drone?
but our
even-
whole community is within 5 miles of an airport, so the FAA says that we can't have them anyway.
That's
So-
right. However, maybe if, you know how it is, even if we're not, if something happened and there were drones in our park or whatever,
Yeah.
then maybe it would be good to have some
It'd be
policy of
something
like,
definitely to have
at your own
the
expense.
GM look into.
Yeah,
So,
good, wonderful,
so.
interesting.
All right. And as it's already been stated, I wasn't there, so we'll, I was there in spirit.
You are.
All right. All right, moving on to B.
Circling back around for board member, community activities and meetings report.
All right, we'll start at the end of the dais there with
Oh, my
Director
goodness.
Reyes.
Yes, the Village Green. Because we are going through some major remodel, we have moved our, oh gee, if it was a voting year, I could have been a resident of Rancho Cordova. Our residents to the Capital Village. And my son, his townhouse or three-level house is right there on the corner of Tower Park. It's really a beautiful location. We found it together. I was able to sell it to him, but I never realized how beautiful it was. It overlooks our park. It overlooks the park. And so obviously every day I see, and I'm just thrilled to see a lot of people using our parks, walking their dogs, walking around, doing their exercise, walking, and not just all very young or very old. It's really an eye-opening experience. I think that that whole development around the park, and even I was surprised to say the new apartments that were built instead of the lofts and all this. It seemed to make the area very, very nice. And I think there are a lot of younger generations that live in that and that enjoy it. And they like that setting. I know my son loves it. But as I was walking, there was something I said, oh, gee, I'm going to just, we've got to do eyes on our parks. And one of the things I noticed is that, and I've already had a conversation with our general manager, and I've said, hey, not for anything, but a few people have commented about the signs on the tower. That it's really getting very, faded and old. And maybe it needs to be brought up new and bright again so that the park does not look like it's dated old, because it doesn't look like that. But obviously, when they look at the tower, they go, oh, gee, when was this done? And I think, 2006, am I right? It was about 2006, 2007, somewhere there.
2008, really?
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to bring to the attention of our GM, and I did. So hopefully he will do his research and see, how the signs can be renewed, recolored, brought out, shining as new. But it is a very nice park, and it's very well appreciated by the people that live there.
All right, thank you.
And our care and maintenance shows forth very well. Even if the fact is there's a lot of turf, there's a lot of grass, there's a lot of green that, in those days, they built it with a lot of green and didn't realize that the water could be a problem. But other than that, it still is doing very well.
Green is good.
Very nice.
All right, okay,
Now,
all right.
I'm done.
Moving along, all right. Director Lineback?
Okay. I attended the Rosemont Celebration of Community on September 21st. It's an annual event for them. It was a huge event, and the Park District was there with really side-by-side booths, one regarding Primrose Park and getting information from the public about what they'd like to see in that new play structure that will be going in there, and also, you know, the district activities, their brochures, a little game for the kids. And I was invited to say a few words as a member of the Rosemont community that is also an elected official, so I drew them over to the Primrose survey. I also attended the Primrose Park Community Outreach Meeting on September 24th, and I thought it was really well attended. And the district's presentation of the possibilities for that park was very well received. And I thought it was a really successful meeting. I thought the way it was communicated in terms of, you know, sort of a pilot capital project for the community was, I think the residents were very impressed by that way of presenting it, and I think it went over really well. I think it made the public feel really good about what the Park District is doing for them. That's kind of what I mean by that. And then I did attend also the Rosemont Community Association meeting, and actually going back to Primrose, you know, they just asked me to forward their thanks to the Park District for that meeting. So I'm doing that here. So that is my report.
Excellent, thank you. All right, Secretary Sloan, your turn.
September 24th, Primrose Park Community Outreach. I too thought it was a very well-presented plan for that park. The community there that showed up were very responsive, putting their little colored things on the areas they thought were the most important. And I look forward to seeing the progress of that park and the actual outcome of what does get put in. On the on that same day, I left that and went to the BRECA Steering Committee meeting. There really wasn't any issues that came up at the park, although to just remind people that on that Saturday, the 28th, was the BRECA picnic, which I attended. And thanks the district, we had our little cornhole game out there with our logo on it, which was nice. And we had the fire department guys coming out there playing cornhole against each other. I got some good photographs of that. So it was a nice event. You know, we don't get the big numbers, but the food's pretty good, the potluck. The next thing was on October 1st, I attended the Rancho Cordova Athletic Association. And to let you know that they earmarked a couple of prospective projects they're going to submit to the city of Rancho Cordova for funding. And one is the Rancho Cordova Track Club and the Mitchell to Williamson Cross Country Path. They're going to try to get $15,000 from the city to help fund that program there, and hopefully we can have like a tournament. Call them tournaments? I call them tournaments, which would be kind of interesting. I'd love to see how that works out. And another one was the bench replacement at Alstrom Park. They're asking for $10,000 for that. So I think basically I think probably would be just some maintenance for us to help them with, I believe. And also I found out that the Cordova Marlins sea tainer is currently being stored at the golf course. So I was told. And it's only there because they're waiting to see what the progression of the Hagen complex to see whether when they're going to have storage there to replace it. So Next was, October 12th, last Saturday, I attended the Rancho Cordova Athletic Association Hall of Fame, which I think that our chairperson was there also. Actually, you were working it.
I volunteered, yes.
And that was nice. I enjoyed that event. On October 16th, which is today, I attended the CARPD. We had a retreat and a board meeting held here, the district, and there's Carly out there in the audience. Still here. She had help facilitating. She played Vanna White today at one of our little events that we had, a little ice-breaking game. And let's see. I guess on the agenda, we always see which bills are currently being worked on, so they found out that Governor Newsom recently has taken action on 3 bills that might interest us. One is AB 5. It's workers' status, employees, and independent contractors. And the other one is AB 111, wildfire agencies, wildfire public utility safety and insurance. And the last one is AB 379, which is youth athletics, concussion and sudden cardiac arrest prevention protocols that we're all going to have to be addressing in the future. I think the rest I'm going to leave up to Director Danzel.
All right, Vice Chair Danzel, you're up.
So on September 20th, myself and Director Leinbach actually came here to City Hall for the Chamber of Commerce lunch to, to listen to the speaker that day. The speaker was amazing. He was. he was, and he seemed. What's that?
The grapevine.
he was.
The speaker was featured on the grapevine.
Yeah, and he was talking about some pool or something, but no. General Manager Larkin was the speaker at the Chamber's lunch that day, and it was great to have him go to a different part of the community in a sense that doesn't normally hear what's going on. People who aren't coming here to our meetings to hear what's going on at the pool, or not going to city council meetings to hear what's going on with the pool. They came to the chamber luncheon, and there were some unique questions at the end. But General Manager Larkin kept a cool head and did exactly what he's always done when it comes to this pool. He knows what's going on with it, and he stands by it, and I think we all do for that. Conference we already talked about, and then CRPD was today, as Secretary Sloan said. This morning, we went through and talked on our retreat, just talked about the strengths, the weaknesses of that organization, where we can change things, make that organization better. And then this afternoon, our board meeting went through and just, I've been in this building since 9:30 this morning, talking Parks and Rec, and and that's easy to do. Like most of, we all can talk Parks and Rec, but literally we've been talking Secretary Sloan and I have been talking since 9:30 this morning about Parks and Rec, and just how to make this organization better, how to make the other organization that we sit on better, and how to drive our membership up there, and what do our constituents at the CARPD level need from that organization. So it was unique. My first time sitting in a retreat with that organization, my second board meeting. So it was definitely unique, and lots of food for thought in that meeting this morning.
One more thing, for after lunch, we all walked to Village Green Park, and they were really impressed by that park. Mm-hmm. Who wouldn't be, right? I told you.
All right, I guess it's my turn. I did attend the Rosemont celebration of a community event on September 21st. The new date is a lot better weather-wise. It can get very hot when we used to do it earlier in the summer. But it was well-attended as usual, and we had a nice shady spot for our booth, and a lot of feedback on the play structure replacement at Primrose. And then Followed that up a few days later. I was over at Primrose Park. The outreach meeting was very nice. It was well attended. It was great to see a lot of staff out there to answer questions anybody would have. I did have one constituent after the meeting wonder about a half-court basketball court, and I said, and just left it at that. So I thought that play structure looked pretty good for its, 20-some years old? I thought it looked pretty good. So it's probably not, time for a replacement, but I thought considering it was 20 years old, it still looked pretty darn good, so. Oh, no. Well, I did talk to Director of Parks and Rec about, is that something we could potentially sell? Does it have to be recycled? What do we do with when it's done? What if somebody needs a replacement park for a similar structure? What can we do with that? Or does it just end up in the boneyard or, well, no, we're getting rid of the boneyard at the golf course, so it won't end up out there. But what can we do with it? So the peacocks need something to play on. But, and then I also attended a meeting of district staff with the Folsom Cordova Unified School District on October 2nd, a few weeks back. And it was a very nice meeting where we talked about a few things, but the biggest thing is, I believe the well-received thing discussed at the luncheon was also there, and telling them kind of how the pool was going and some other things. So it was a very nice meeting just to talk to them, and they shared a few, I'm trying to blank on his name. Who's their the guy, no, the guy used to be Mills. Peter Maroons, thank you, sorry. Their district athletic director or something like that.
that's a
Yeah,
new position.
some interesting things. He came across a program up in was it Washington or Oregon, about helping kids with basically scholarships to play youth sports and stuff like that. So it was very interesting. He just happened upon that when he was on vacation. So that was a very interesting topic, and hopefully that'll come to fruition and help children in the communities that just don't have the money to play youth sports, because most youth sports now are probably around $100, $150 easily, and that's probably the cheaper ones now. I can't remember what was Junior Lancers, a couple hundred at least, something like that. It was kind of crazy, so I don't remember. All right, well, that is all I got, so I guess we can now move on to
H2.
H2.
Thank you.
Bum, bum, bum.
Item H2A is a ballot vote. The Sacramento LAFCO Special District Commissioner, Office Number 6, and alternate Office Number 6 and 7. So LAFCO is conducting a mail ballot vote for commissioner positions and alternate. There are 8 candidates on ballot A for commissioner and 5 candidates on ballot B for the alternate. And we are splitting these into 2 motions if the board desires to take action. And the ballots are due by November 21st. Thank you.
Therefore, I move that the Board of Directors vote for Michael Yearwood for the Sacramento LAFCO Special District Commissioner, Office Number 6.
Second.
Motion by Director Reyes, second by Vice Chair Danzel. I guess we're not going to have any discussion. Okay. Roll call vote?
Director Reyes?
Aye.
Director Lineback?
Aye.
Secretary Sloan?
I'll remember that.
Vice Chair Danzel?
Aye.
Chair Yearwood?
Aye. All right, do we have to do the second part now?
I move the Board of Directors vote for Michael Yearwood for Sacramento LAFCO alternate Special District Commissioner, offices number 6 and 7.
Second.
Motion by Director Lineback, seconded by Secretary Danzel, Vice Chair Danzel.
Take my vote back.
Roll call vote?
Director Reyes?
Aye.
Director Lineback?
Aye.
Secretary Sloan?
I hope you win both.
I don't think I can.
You can.
Vice Chair Danzel?
Aye.
Chair Yearwood?
Aye. Well, thank you all.
Good luck.
Well,
Good luck.
thank you.
4-page
Don't have to
resume.
put up any campaign signs or anything.
You didn't put any picture on your
I
resume.
didn't realize pictures were something they wanted.
I was looking for a picture. But
I wasn't told they needed a headshot.
Michael, thank you so much for being willing to represent us.
I would have run to Glamour Shots for one for you guys. Are they even still around? But anyways, moving on to I, comments by staff by non-agenda items.
Thank you. Item I1 is the district-wide monthly progress report for October, and I'll turn it over to General Manager Larkin.
Thank you, Clerk Jones. Some highlights from the past month. I was able to attend the Visit Rancho Cordova annual meeting. It's a meeting that was downloading everyone on how they're attracting economic development to the community. And we were at the table for the first time, and it was great for me to represent our district as a part of that economic development engine. So we'll be working closer with Visit Rancho Cordova to make sure that they're aware of the parks that are attracting folks into our community as a thing for the help for them to market a visit to Rancho Cordova. So they were very pleased by that addition to their already attractive community that they're trying to promote. We facilitated the second Friends of Cordova, Inc. meeting. At that last meeting, they elected their president, secretary, and treasurer. The next meeting will have a vice president elected amongst themselves. Their goals are to, once they're all boarded, we're looking at a name change coming up. And so they've all decided that they'd like to pursue a name change of Cordova Recreation and Park Foundation, which will be applied by the Secretary of State. And then once that application is approved, because it is available for us to be able to go after, we'll be changing the name, and then they'll be coming forward to this board for bylaw adjustments in the future. So they're doing really well. It's a great start for this group, and I'm very excited to see where they're going to bring us. Under the clerk of the board, we have AB 1234 training. Board members attended the CSDA conference and completed required AB 1234 ethics and sexual harassment prevention training, and their certificates will be updated on the website. Also, in the division, just to note, there's an all-staff Thanksgiving potluck. It's scheduled for Tuesday, November 19th. And believe it or not, that's next month already. And it's going to be at 11:30, and I believe that's at Hagen. Correct. Also, under some just notes for financial reports, our water utilities, 2198 usage is lower than previous year. So our irrigation and our water-conscious, water-wise approaches are working, Jim. Thank you so much for, directing the staff and keeping them on board. We're getting some new equipment to help monitor that better. So every year we're getting better and better, and that really is important for us. So that water has always been a concern as it was growing in its cost for water, but we have the best in show here, and I'm proud to report that the water usage is lower than previous years at this point in the year. Also, of note with the financial areas, overall the targets are within 5%, plus 5%, and no major concerns to report this so far in the budget year that we approved in July. We had some staff attend NeoGov training and a conference. They were lucky enough to go to Vegas. So Andrea and Jennifer attended that training to have a better understanding of what NeoGovernment, the process that we use for onboarding staff. We use NeoGov as the recruitment tool as well as the onboarding modules, and we're only getting more information about what it can do now. So as we get our staff trained on the uses of NeoGov, we're going to be able to activate that software a little bit more than we have been, knowing what it's capable of doing. So that was a very beneficial training for them to have so that we can utilize that resource to the best of its abilities for us. In development projects, we have contractor planner Goulion, is that how you say it? Okay. Gallone reviewed and provided comments on several important submittals for the ranch special planning area, including the draft environmental report reviews. They're a little off the hook right now with the development agreements coming forward, so we're really thankful for that contract that we have with contract planner Gallone in helping us with that workload. It's been you never know really when they're wanting to activate their reviews, and Laura has been doing a fantastic job with using our resources available to us to respond under the timelines that are quick to turn around with some very large reviews of developments coming forward. There's a lot of projects that have been completed in the last month. The ones that Hagen have rolled out, and I'll maybe have Jill talk a little bit more about that. But at Rosemont Community Park, the improvements are expected to be completed at the end of October, weather permitted. So that's exciting to get those pathways replaced. We have, as I mentioned, a lot of developments, and in the packet there, it kind of highlights some of the workload for that. A community meeting about building demolition at Federspiel Park has been scheduled for October 29th at 5 p.m. We're inviting our PMRID members to all community outreach meetings now and in the future, which I think is a good benefit for them to be involved in. So I'd encourage you to attend if you can. Coordination of other agencies. We have some really quite an award-winning staff, as you know, but we were honored to have Christina James be tapped to provide a training for CSDA's Gold County, I believe it's called, section of CSDA, where she'll be presenting to that Gold Country. She'll be presenting on being grant ready. So she has put together quite a presentation that will be very educational. She practiced today's, and she's great with my distractions and questions. You know, I'm like trying to play real life, so she did fantastic. In addition to that, Laura Taylor was also tapped as an expert in our community engagement. So she'll be presenting to LAFCO, and she's going to be sitting on a panel and presenting how excellent we do as a community engagement provider. And she too was feeling the wrath of me as an attendee playing those things out, and has a fantastic presentation. So that's just a great place for us to be tapped as the resident experts in the region for those that are seeing us that way, and that we have that staff available to share our wisdom and our experience. So congratulations to Laura and Christina for getting the nod to that and providing that service. And I'm going to turn it over to Jill so she can give us an update on Parks and Recreation.
Like Patrick had mentioned, Hagen Park's looking pretty good. The dredging project is complete. Water is being, I think, almost, is it pretty full? I think it's almost full. It looks pretty full to me. The concrete pathways look fantastic. You guys know the pool buildings are down, so excited to get this pool project on its way. So exciting things at Hagen. Appreciate all the staff's help. Obviously, park planning, it's wonderful. We appreciate everything. And so does the community. Jim Morales has been working with the Sacramento Tree Foundation, and they're going to be putting together a tree care training, and all of the board members and staff are invited. So it's on your special event invitation, but it's also in the progress report. The tree care training is conducted by Pamela and Haley from the Sacramento Tree Foundation. The training will include structural pruning, simple cuts, and training young trees for successful structure and safety and beauty. The event will be held on Thursday, November 14th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Neil Orchard Senior Activity Center. So if you're available that day and want to learn a little bit more about pruning trees, come on by. It'll be a little bit of an indoor sort of, conversation. And then we'll go outdoors and actually prune some trees. So come on by. Depending on the weather. But we can still prune trees in the rain. It doesn't. It's all right. So come on by if you're interested. Over at the Mather Sports Complex, we had the Midnight Madness softball tournament that was hosted by All World Sports. Again, another great year. About 104 teams came out, played softball. Some of them played 24 hours a day, but not really. But the tournament was 24 hours a day. So another great effort by both the park staff as well as the recreation staff for, people to come out and have some fun. Youth flag football season is running again. We've got, we went from 55 to 70 participants, so we're growing, which is fantastic. We've got 7 full teams with 2 divisions. We basically do all the games out at Heron Landing Community Park. Another great successful season for youth flag football. I'm glad that got off the ground. Other than that, that's about it that I have for my monthly report. Do you want me to go into special? Okay. The special event invitations, I wanted to call out a couple of the special events that'll be happening over the next few months. We've got the Halloween at Hagen, which is Saturday, October 26th from 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. Hopefully, the board will be doing a trunk or treat again this year, which would be fantastic, but stop by, have some fun, listen to the DJ. Patrick already mentioned about the Federspiel Park Community Meeting. Again, if it rains, it'll be here at City Hall instead of out at the park. Over at the Neil Orchard Senior Activity Center on Friday, November 8th is a Veterans Day celebration from 11:30 to 12:30. And if you haven't been to that celebration, it is quite special. So please come out if you have the chance. And that's it.
All right,
All right. We all good on that?
very good.
All right, so what does that leave? Informational items, Jay?
Yes, item J1 is the articles. There are 2 included, and J2 is your calendar.
The calendar. All right, so I guess we're going to move on to item K, closed session.
Yes, thank you. We have 2 items in closed session this evening. Item K1 is a liability claim pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.9. The claimant is Rosie Reyes. Agency claimed against is the Cordova Recreation and Park District. Item K2 is a public employee performance evaluation pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957. The title is General Manager.
All right, we'll adjourn to closed session at 8:27.